Okay, cool. I think we're live. If you're in here, let me know. Say something in the chat. Um, yeah. Exciting times. So we got a couple minutes left. It's like 3 minutes. So we will. I'll wait until properly 12 o'clock, and then we'll kind of get this thing started. It's a little different setup today because I'm doing something locally, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, man. In the meantime, so I love these hydro flask things. They're amazing. I have tons of their stuff. Great stuff. But the straw in this is probably like the best feature of the hydro flasks. Just so much water comes through. I love it. But mine broke. I've had it for like a couple of years now. And what's that sound? Sounds terrible. It's like doesn't make like a tight seal anymore or something. Okay. Cool. 2 more minutes. I'm curious if you're hanging out and you're in the chat, kind of like how you're feeling on day whatever it is you are on of being quarantined or kind of stuck up in your house. Um, I have to say I'm loving it. It's great. I'm extremely introverted and I love an excuse not to leave the house, not to have to socialize. It's great. That's gonna get annoying. Okay, let's just start now. 11:59, close enough. Welcome to today's live stream. I thought it'd be fun to just go ahead and let's see. Let me put my head up here. Nope. Yeah. So I thought it'd be fun today to uh, just do a little bit of work on a small little micro resource that I have called reactpatterns.com. Um, it's kind of like this really gentle, maybe not like introduction to React, but just kind of like talks a little bit about the patterns. Maybe once you understand the core concepts of React. However, it's woefully out of date. I think I committed changes. Let's see. React patterns as recently as 2 months ago. This is the repo. It has like all of the sites that I have online, um, or a good number of them. And inside of it is this next app with basically just has one page. It's a very small resource. Um, so I have this project. It all lives in here. Howdy, Byron. What's up? Thanks for joining today. So it's all here, and yeah, it's hasn't been. Let's see. I added like I think I updated to like a ConvertKit email link type of thing. But that's like the last thing I did on it. And I had done some streams where I was updating, but I didn't actually commit. So today I'm committed to actually like committing and pushing this up. So if you're watching this, you'll see those changes. But yeah, that's it. I don't. I'm one. I'm very bad at actually like maintaining any of my side projects. So being able to stream this is kind of the only way that I'll actually make time to do it. So thank you for being my accountability today. Let's see. So I have this running. This is, if I open this up, this is on my local host. I have just a server running in a terminal. So let's go through this. Get the latest React patterns, tips, and tricks right into your inbox. Oh, that's this. That's a lie. I'm very terrible at emailing. So it's just between me and you. We'll just let anyone else who signs up on that thing believe that they're going to get an email from me. They might eventually. So first one right here is function components. So we start like super easy. We just have a function component. Function component is the simplest way to declare reusable components. They're just functions. It seems largely true still. I'm curious if I should say the simplest way or like the way, because it really does feel like documentation is it feels like the industry is kind of like trending towards like function components for everything. But I also don't want to exclude anyone who's using class components. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I'll just say the way for now. Reusable components, they're just functions. That's fine. Okay. Collect props from the first argument of your function. I don't like the way that this is voiced. So function components, I'm talking about function components, and I say collect props from the first argument of your function. Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot. Why am I... Y'all need to tell me when I'm not on the right screen, like a dum-dum. I can't believe I'm so bad at this. So freaking bad at this. Thank you for enduring how terrible I am at this. Okay, so sorry. Now you can actually see the code. Imagine that. So let's see. So collect props from the first argument of your component. The like voicing kind of changes here, which is really weird. Let me read the rest of this and then let's see where we're at. So define any number of local variables to do what you need in your function components. I say your again. Always return your components at the end. So something that is going to be important here is I'm not doing a really good job in this case about kind of saying, using the right terminology. So a component is this thing, and these are actually returning elements. So this JSX is calling create element on this component. So what we're returning is actually an element, and I want to be careful to make sure that I clarify that language early on so that it's not confusing to people. And right here, I'm saying always return a React component at the end, and we're not returning an element. So that needs to be fixed. Set defaults for any required props and default props. This is actually, while this is still supported, I see a lot more like kind of depending on JavaScript for this particular part of things. So like in this case, you would, destructure and provide some like default variables. Now, in the past with lifecycle methods, I really liked default props because you would get all of those inside of your lifecycle hooks. However, in function component world, default props doesn't have any, at least as far as I understand, market benefits over that. Except that you wouldn't have to do destructuring assignment and do that like property defaults or whatever. So it might be worth leaving that, because then I don't have to jump right into destructuring assignment to have that make sense. And we can have that be the next part. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I think we have a little bit of a plan. Let's kind of go through the language here. The source for this is an MDX file, I believe. Oh, just a markdown file, but I think it's being processed. No, just a markdown file. Okay, so function components are the way to declare a reusable component. They're just functions. Sure, seems fine. Oh, Byron says there are TypeScript and prototype differences. Yeah, do you mind fleshing that out a little bit in the chat, because that'd be helpful to know what those are. Because I don't really use a lot of TypeScript in the projects that I do have it. We're really just using it for we're using it to define prop types. Or I guess like in place of the prop types library, and that's kind of the only thing we're doing in the React code bases. So yeah, curious how that works. Okay, function. I've actually come to really hate. I know that this is like the primary example. You're gonna see a lot of my neuroses come out here. I know that this is kind of like the primary example. You do like a greeting and then you take a prop and like a name, but this is like hysterically not code that is ever in an actual application. So I don't know if there's like a better example. This is very easy, but like, I mean, nobody has like this like static hi. I mean, maybe it's like some kind of like dynamic like hi, howdy, welcome, whatever. Um, but but yeah. Anyway, so we have a greeting. Hi there. Collect props from the first argument of our collection. Let's say props maybe come in as the it's weird because I haven't defined what props are. I should probably say something like every component gets props. Let's see, props come in as a function argument. They're how you customize components. And then I think the example kind of speaks for itself. Again, this isn't like a beginner resource. Let's see. Yeah, this isn't a beginner resource, so I do expect some level of knowledge because I'm not talking about how interpolation works either. So, yeah. Yeah, anything coming from outside of a component is a prop. Wait, let me go to chat. Let's see, the prop types. Type checking happens after default props are resolved, so type checking will also apply to default props. Okay. That's nice. Anything coming from outside to a component is a prop. Cool. Yeah, so let's see. Every component gets props. Every component gets props. Let's see, was it? Let's go with that for right now. Awesome. Thanks, Brew. What was that? I like to try to pronounce my misspellings. Customize. What is it? Customize? I'm such a terrible speller. Props come in as a function argument. Okay, cool. That seems good enough for now. I don't need to kind of like go wild with all the details. This is just kind of like augmenting the docs. So let's see. Define any number of local variables to do what you need in your function components. This feels largely unnecessary. I think it would be more helpful to just say that you always need to return a I think in previous iterations of this where I was using what's it called? That like arrow function syntax, it was really just to show that you could like break that down and like show a block. And so this feels kind of like an artifact of that. So I might just say like, hey, let's you always need to return a React element. In which case, I should probably define where a React element is up here. So let's do that. Curious what your thoughts are on capitalization. I tend to like capitalizing kind of like the proper nouns that are in the world of the thing, to distinguish this from a like regular element. But I guess that could also be like prefixing it with React is fine. I'm curious. I tend to go this approach, but curious what you think. JSX. Let's see. Every component must return a React element. I don't necessarily need to add an example to this, so let's maybe just put that as like let's put that like that. So just kind of like make it bold. And then I'm gonna add a new heading up here where we talk about what a React element is. Cool. Every component must return a React element. Set defaults for any required props using default props. This is such a weird reading sentence, but I always hate sentences that are like set default props with default props. I guess I could make it a little bit more. This is where I always like waffle back and forth because I kind of like just resources that are very like matter of fact, like do this thing, and you can kind of decide on your own whether or not you like to. But it does feel like it could be more friendly, like if you'd like to specify default. Use default props for a prop. If you'd like to specify that's kind of weird. I might need to come back to that later. Let's see. Okay, so Byron says, I usually do different formatting for the terminology, like element in Slack. I would say something like React element. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense too. Concerned that might get a little bit noisy because there's also something else that we're balancing here, which is like kind of using these kind of like technical terms that we're focusing on. Yeah. Let's kind of like hold off on that and like see how it fleshes out in context. Okay, if you'd like to specify a default prop or a default for a prop, use default props. Now there's something that I'm not covering here, which is like the relationship of this, that we're actually kind of like hanging this off of that like, prototype or whatever, if that is even the right verbiage to be using. I've never been able to describe that concisely, so I'm kind of just leaving it as is. Cool. Let's jump up to element. Let's see. Element. Okay. React. Let's see, is any JSX div? Now this is maybe kind of a lie because I don't actually know how these things like. So I have was it? This would be equivalent to React.create element of div. And then this isn't really like a component per se, right? Um, or is it a component that like React just knows how to, I guess, build based on the string? Um, so I don't know if using like a div here is like a misleading example. I mean, I think they're all components. So if I did something like this and just kind of showed off a couple of things like, okay, yeah, it can also be null or array. Let's see. React component is anything, or React element is anything inside of Angular. Man, I don't know how deep I want to go on this. One thing that I do a lot is just kind of like basically shell out to the documentation. I know there hasn't historically been really good documentation on React elements, but maybe there is now. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah. Okay, so what do they say? React elements are building blocks for React applications. One might confuse elements with a more widely known concept of components. An element describes what you want to see on the screen. React elements are immutable. Typically, elements are not used directly, but get returned from components. Seems like a very nice way to put that. Whatever this doc is, didn't exist before, and it's amazing. I love this. What is this? Glossary of terms? Oh, hell yes. I'm sending this to all kinds of people now. Let's see. So, Byron, I think a better way to say it is something like a React element is a description of what the component should mount as children, or perhaps the component should look like. Yeah. Describes what you want to see on screen. Interesting. So if I were to kind of like take this whole concept and like kind of whittle it down into like the smallest terms, I like this example here. Because for me, I think it's important to kind of talk about what it looks like. So here it's talking about kind of like the theory of the thing, and so I like to think about it in terms of like how can I identify a element visually from other things. So like in this case, the defining characteristic of an element in React is that it has angle brackets. And I think that this is widely where like a lot of my stuff differs from the like technical documentation, which is like extremely technical and like, accurate. Mine is a little, I think more tends to be more approachable because of the, because it's the way that I think about it, and it's like more like visual reference stuff. So let's stick with the visual reference kind of thing, but see if we can incorporate some of this so that I'm not like kind of creating a poor mental model. So React element. Let's say anything inside of angle brackets. I think that's good. Typical elements are not used directly, but get returned from components. I do like that. Yeah, and I think that would tie in really nicely to kind of this this mandate that we have down here. Every component must return a React element. But as Byron was saying, it can be null as well, which is worth. So it's not really a must, because it's tricky because we're immediately getting into like what's renderable, right? And so I might get away with like not saying this as like something that should happen, but say something as like what you want to do. I think that's one of the nice things about kind of like being what's the word? Almost like communicating these things like dictatorially. So that it's like do this as opposed to like kind of having to get into all of like the theoretical concepts involved. So let's finish this element section and then we'll get back down there. So React element is anything inside of angle brackets. Elements in React. It's not totally true, but I'm fine with it for now. Say something like components return elements. Yeah, let's do that. Kind of like leads into the next section. And I want to see if they still call these function components or if they're just components now. Glossary of terms. Yeah, let's kill function component. And then we can just refer to the other one as a class component. All right, more. Oh, I'm on the chat screen. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Man, so bad at this. I think I need like a maybe to mount it. I need to mount it somewhere else so I can kind of like see the problem. Okay. Yeah, that renderable thing, Byron, could be tricky. Yeah, it's tricky because I don't really want to get into that. I kind of see that as more like advanced concept, and this is like really just like kind of hitting the ground running type of thing. So let's see where we're at. So we have React element. Elements are anything inside angle brackets. We're linking to the documentation there, which is great. I give a couple examples. Components return elements. Okay, so I guess I could probably link to that section. It's right below, but whatever. So we're going to link to that. Oh, components. Element. Let's see, what do I say here? Elements. Yeah, so I'm pluralizing that. Components are a way to declare reusable. Components are a way to declare reusable components. Okay, so now that we took function out of that, this whole sentence is extremely repetitive. Let's see, components. So we just say components return elements. This is extremely repetitive, but I kind of feel like saying the inverse here, right? Like, or like, kind of like repeating that somehow. Thanks, Byron. Chef's kiss. That's one of my favorite thing. Let's see. Are the way to declare reusable elements. It's interesting if I change this to elements. It's kind of interesting, but like it's not totally true. I mean, I guess it is true, right? Because like if I'm calling create class even on like a whole bunch of components, those are elements at that point. Let's go with that for a minute. So components are a way to declare reusable elements. Yeah, so Byron's saying reusable UI pieces. I think that could work too. Okay, so we're 12:30 right now. Let's put a pin in that because I kind of like the symmetry there, but we'll see. It's not. We'll see. Let's see. We don't need to do the they're just functions thing. I think that was more important once upon a time. Nobody gives a shit now. Every component gets props. Props. I don't like come in. Come in. Arrive. This is kind of weird language to describe arguments. See, how can I restructure this to are received? That's stupid. Every man, imagine me like you're seeing this live, but like imagine me just like doing this by myself. It's just it's insufferable. That's why all these things take so freaking long. It's like not even through the first section. It's like 4 very short sentences. Every component gets props. Props arrive as a function argument. Maybe via. I hate that and there. Every component gets props. Let's switch these. They're how you customize props. They're how you customize components. Let's capitalize that. Props arrive via through function arguments as an object. That's a terrible sentence, but I'm going to keep it there for now and then massage it later. Yeah, okay. I feel like that's the best I got in me right now. Okay, now this needs to go. I wonder if I could say a component is any function that returns a React element. What were the options again? Null, was it? I'm gonna jump back to chat. Yeah, I think it's null or an array. Okay. component is any function that returns a React element. Let's just, I'm going to go with, has anyone read The Little Schemer or Little Schemer? One thing I really like about that book and was kind of the inspiration for this document is that they tell it's written in such a way where like truths are said, but like they're very partial truths. So like you don't like jump in at the deep end. It doesn't tell you all of the things that are capable with a feature. It'll just tell you like this is, think of it in this scope first. And so I like the idea of just starting with like a component is any function that returns a React element. And then we can kind of like work on that later. We'll see. Let's see. I'll probably go for another like 13 minutes. Let's see. A component is a we will have in 45 minutes gotten through one section. Terrific. Every component gets props. They're how are the way to declare. Again, I changed or how. Again, I'm kind of struggling here because I don't like this like informative tone that I'm taking. I really I want to change it to something that's like do this. But starting with elements kind of puts me on that footing of theory, which I don't like. Let me try this. Like I just like every time I'm writing, it's just it's kind of this feeling that I feel like in my gut that it's just not like it's not right yet. Okay, so I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna start with the verb, and do like let's see, define a component. And actually, I should probably update this. Those URLs are much nicer too. Define a component by function that returns a React element. That might actually get us out of a whole bunch of this other bullshit. By declaring a function that returns a React element. Let's make a new section called props. I kind of like that. The sections are actually getting tighter, which is cool. Elements are anything inside angle brackets. Components return elements. Define a component. By declaring a function that returns a React element. Components are customized through props. I'm just gonna feel this out a little bit. This idea of like leading into the each of the new sections. Then I can just say take props. Take props is the first argument of Yaru, your component function. So we can get rid of this. What's our time looking like? Take props as the first argument of your component function. Props are an object. I'm not going to go into interpolation. Yeah, not going to do that. Props are an object. So what's this term again? It's property access. That's going to come in handy. Knowing property access is going to be valuable later on. So I'm going to kind of tease that in right from the top. JavaScript object dot notation, bracket notation, accessing object properties. Ew, W3 schools, property assessors. It's not what I want. Let's see. So let's see. Props are an object. Props. Ooh, props are or is? Props is, I think. That feels right. Props is an object. Take props as the first. Yep. Props is an object. Let's see. Use. And let's see. What is this? I wonder if there's a doc on interpolation. Whoops. Reactjs.org again. Interoperability. Nothing on curly. Specifying attributes with JSX embedded. Okay. Attributes with JSX as an expression 2. No, none of this is what I want. Yes, embedded expressions in JSX. That's what I'm after. Marcos says props is an object which wraps the custom data from outside to use inside of a component. Yeah. Okay, let me get this link in here. Embedded expressions in JSX. Man, all this language is just so technical. Let's see, where was I? Props. Because there's actually, so one thing that sucks here is there's actually two concepts. So each of these is a single concept, but now that I'm in props, I have multiple concepts in place because I'm talking both about like property access, or let's see, what do they call it? Embedded expressions in JSX. But then also I'm talking about props for the first time, and I don't know how I can separate those. I guess I could declare a variable up here first before I even go into props and talk about embedded expressions. That does feel a little, feels like maybe the most coherent path. But it does feel kind of like an indirect way to get into props. But in terms of like code arc, it makes the most, like code mutations and things that I could tell people, it definitely makes the most sense. Expressions. So let's put that link in here. Man, this is why I hate doing this work. Okay, so we got embedded expressions, or why I avoid doing this work. I like this work. Let's see. Because it really feels like, let's see, do I talk at all about JSX spread attributes? So I kind of assume, I assume JSX knowledge, and maybe that's still all right. I guess it kind of depends. I know that when I initially wrote this, I decided to leave off a lot of details about certain things, seeing this as like kind of like a secondary like learning resource. But I don't know, maybe you could just skip ahead if you, yeah. I'm gonna leave it off for now. Let's see, let's jump in here. Let's see what kind of doc we have on JSX, so I can link the latest glossary of terms JSX. I'm gonna assume JSX knowledge, or just link out to it. You can click on it if you don't know what it means. Let's see, JSX. Use curly braces. Again, going with the kind of like mandate style of writing. Props. Nope, it was before that. Embedded expressions. So use curly braces. Curly braces to embed expressions in JSX. So let's take this example. We're going to kill props from that. And then, yeah, I think this goes back to what all of you have been saying in chat, which now I should have the, I guess, context to be able to say, like, props are like outside values, right? Because now I'm showing off an inside value. And so I can say, like, hey, props are how you get values from the outside. So this could work. It's coming along. So let's say, like, let name equal, let's use my name. Why not? Or my alias. It took me way too many tries to type that, by the way. Okay. No, we don't want that section. Okay, I did notice that we're jumping to customization of props. Let's dump that. Use curly braces to embed. I don't like the way this is showing up. I'm not exactly sure how better to do that. Maybe with parens. But that's kind of confusing, and it looks not great. Use curly braces to embed. Embed in JSX. Looks like they're missing a space there. Okay, cool. That feels good. take props to allow outside customizations of your component. Okay. Okay. Props as an object. Use property access to access those values. I don't want to tell people how to use JavaScript. That's stupid. Deleting the whole thing. Pointless. Take props to allow outside customizations of your component. Use curly braces to embed expressions in JSX. Perfect. That seems clear. Take props to allow outside customizations of your component. I haven't decided if I want to like focus on like a single component. I kind of like this is so silly. The single component feels a little bit more like cozy, I guess. Like we're just focusing on this one component. Unlike components in the abstract. Let's see. Elements are anything inside angle brackets. Components return. Ooh. Component return. Components return elements. Okay, links to component. I gotta get this off. I just did the same thing. Define a component by declaring a function that returns a React element. Okay, great. I don't know if I want to be hyperlinking these so much, but whatever. Let's just go for it right now. Oh, that's not what I want. Oh, shoot. Who would have known one paragraph would be such a pain in my ass? Expressions. Use curly braces to embed expressions in JSX. Great. Props. Let's see. Take props to allow. Yeah. Marcos. I think. So we're gonna call that what it is, but I think I can never remember. But I think they're params when you're passing them in, and they're arguments on the receiving side. I think. So let's see. Of course, it's not really the props argument. Okay, I'm getting into technical stuff. I think I'm going to leave it like that for now. And then you can kind of just like infer some details from this. I'm not ready to actually go into explaining those things. So I think I'm going to leave it for now. So take props to allow outside customizations. It is wanting though. It feels like it needs something. Let's see, take props as an argument. Yeah. That's fine. Don't love it. Not terrible. Take props as an argument to allow outside customization. Yeah, I think that's. I think Marcus, you're totally right. It needs that. It feels weird without it. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Okay. Default props. Specify a default for props by then I'm back into the sentence again. Default for props with default props. That's just lazy. Oh my gosh, it's almost 1. Okay, I just got to finish this real quick. I'm gonna push and then specify. Specify default values. Yeah, I like that. Specify a default value. No, default values for props with default props. That feels not as bad. Yeah, not as bad. Let's go with that. Okay, cool. An hour later, we got 1 paragraph. Congratulations. Well, thanks everyone for your help. I appreciate it. It was incredibly valuable. I'm going to push this up. So in a couple minutes, you'll be able to see these changes online. I am grateful for your contributions today. This was actually fun to do this together instead of me just banging my head against the wall and missing some of these important details. So thank you so much. I think that's going to be it. I'm going to continue this tomorrow, actually, because there's so much more to do. So if you enjoyed this, I'll be doing it at the same time tomorrow. Should be super fun. Stay safe out there. You're awesome. Thanks for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.